Gina. In this tutorial today, I'm going to show you how to make a couple of projects with the newest treasure bag called Pastel Passion. Now, I have made it in both color versions because you could choose either color mix 1 or color mix 2 for your treasure bag choice. So I have made color mix 1 and color mix 2 in both of the projects. So I'm going to kind of scoot this around so that you can see what they look like. At this point, there are still just a few color mix 2 treasure bags left, so if you'd like some, that'd be great. They did last a little longer this time because I made quite a few more, so I wanted them to stick around for the tutorials, and they actually have, but color mix 1 sold out right away. So we have color mix 2 left if you want one. So this is what this necklace looks like, and it has a nice little dangle on the front here with the diffuser pendant that's in the bags, and I have the little lava stone inside it so you can put some oils on it, and the way that we put it together, it stays twisted. I've messed with these, I've done all kinds of things, and I've been able to keep them twisted, and that is the way that you put on the bead cap and the way that you put on the strands. So here is the green one. I think they turned out really, really pretty. And we just connect some chain in the back here. And then I made a little set of earrings for each set here. And then for the other project, we just do a very simple bead chain pendant necklace and set of earrings. And this turned out really, really pretty too. So let me get these so you can see them. And there's the earring for that one. There's two actually, but I'm just, putting out one. So they turn out really, really cute too. So let's go ahead and look and see what it takes. Actually, I will do what it takes to do each project before each project. So we'll go into this one first and then we'll go into the other one. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Okay, for the first project that we're doing in this video, we're going to make this necklace and earring set, and it turns out just adorable. I think it's really, really cute. So we're going to be using the Pastel Passion treasure bag, and at this point, I don't know how long they'll last. There are still some color mix 2 treasure bags left, so if you want one, you can get one. Otherwise, whatever elements I have left over or whatever components, I will be posting on the website, so you can check that too. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make my next one on camera here with color mix 2. This is color mix 1. In color mix 2, I'm going to use the yellow leaf charms, and I am going to use all 10 of the 8mm round electroplated flower pattern beads, and you have those in both bags that are exactly the same. Then I'm adding some 4mm round non-magnetic synthetic hematite beads. That's a lot to say. And this is the light gold color, or old gold. I'll check and make sure, but I have a couple colors of gold on the website, and this matches this really well. And so I've chosen this one. You can use any spacer beads you want. You can use 4mm rounds that are in your treasure bag. It doesn't matter. I've got 2 pieces of 3.5-inch 20 gauge craft wire. I've got 2 10mm jump rings and a bunch of 4mm jump rings. As you can see, I'm mixing gold and silver. So I've got the gold in my big jump rings, silver in my little jump rings. I'm going to be using beading chain or Coriana chain. It can be called too. It's the same thing. I'm going to be using, I've cut 9 inches in 2 pieces exactly the same length. So if you want a longer necklace, cut 10 inches for both pieces. If you want a shorter one, then cut 8 or perhaps 7. It depends on how small you are. I wouldn't go smaller than 8 inches. That's a 16-inch necklace. That's small. So 2 pieces of that chain. And then we're going to use 4 of these little beading chain crimp tubes. And this is a way to finish off your chain so that you can dangle things from it, put your clasping on it, several things, because you Coriander chain, beading chain is closed. So you want to make sure that you have a way to actually connect things to it. Now, if you do not want to get these and the beading chain, then just use regular beading wire. So something like soft flex. You can use medium or fine, it doesn't matter. And you can also use some beading wire in colors, so you can get a gold one or a silver one if you would like. And you can just go around your jump ring, put your crimp tube on and crimp this off, and then make your necklace just all the way back. Just string these on and then put some gold seed beads or whatever you want towards the back. And you can do the same thing without having to have all the extra stuff. So let's go ahead and do this. So I am going to grab my beading chain here and my tube ends. I'm going to grab 2 of them. And I'm going to prepare the ends of my beading chain so that I can connect my centerpiece jump ring to them. So I'm going to pick up one of these little crimp tubes and I'm going to place it in my crimping plier. I like to turn my crimping plier over so that this flush bent back part here, the smooth back, is up. And then I place my crimping tube in there a little bit recessed, or at least very flush with the tool. And then I can grab my beading chain and I can just drop it in. And this is in the second divot of the crimping tool, closest to the handle. You're using that divot. I drop my beading chain in here and then I squeeze. Now I make sure my beading chain is touching the top of my crimp tube and I can feel it in there really well. This is what you end up with. Then you take your crimping tool and you place this in here sideways. And you want to stay towards the end of the crimping tube. You do not want it sticking out. You want it slightly recessed in the first divot of your crimping tool. The tubes that were created when you squished the first time are touching your crimping tool and then you squeeze. Now you have a very professional looking, very pretty end of your beading chain. And I'm going to just do one side right now so that we can go off camera and do the other side. So now that I have this, I'm going to grab some of my spacer beads and I'm just going to string onto my beading chain, coriander chain, whatever you want to call it. It's the same stuff. The coriander is a made-up name. So yeah, let's just call it beading chain, but coriander is fine too. We are going to drop our beads on here. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 spacer beads and 4 of my big beads. So that leaves 2 left over for earrings. And I'm just going to drop these on here. Okay, so once I have my 5 beads on here, I forgot to tell you, I'm going to be using bead along crimp tube, and this is actually a crimp bead. It's round, it's size 1, and I am going to grab one of these out, and I'm using gold color. You can use whatever color you want. I'm mixing tones on this necklace because I think it's pretty, plus it's easier than trying to match gold in everything you have, because gold tones never match. So, and I don't care how hard you try, unless you take it to the store and you hold it up to the things you're buying, you're just gonna have issues. So, I'm just going to drop that on. I'm going to make sure that my beads are touching the end of my crimp tube here. I'm going to grab a hold with my flat nose pliers of that crimp bead, and then I'm going to back off just ever so slightly, maybe about 1 millimeter, and I'm going to squeeze that tube down, and now I have stabilized my beads. And then I'm going to grab one of these 10mm jump rings, and I'm going to open it. Just twist it from side to side like this and open it. And I'm going to put this on. And then when I make my other side, I can slide it on. So I'm going to go ahead and make the other side, and then we will continue. Okay, so what I have done is gone ahead and made the other side of the chain. So I put my crimp tube on, my beads on, crimped it off with my little size 1 crimp tube, and then I went ahead and put a crimp end on both chains on the other end. So the same way I showed you how to do this end, you're going to do the exact same thing on this end so that they are prepared for your clasping. Once you have these all prepared, then we're going to build our little necklace by grabbing a 4mm jump ring. Now my jump ring is not cut well, and I'm going to show you really quickly how to fix this. Oops, that is too close. If you can see, I don't know if you can, the ends are overlapping, so they're not going to close properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a pair of pliers. I'm going to open this jump ring, and then I'm going to grab my flush cutters, and on the flush side, the side that's flat here, I'm going to see if I can get this in focus here. I'm going to very gently flush cut this end, just like a millimeter, half a millimeter, something like that, just a tiny bit. Now when I close my jump ring, it will close properly, and I won't have a bunch of issues with it, because when you buy these jump rings, sometimes you get really good ones and sometimes you get really poorly cut ones. So I've got this jump ring now. Let's back off, it's too blurry. And I'm going to put it on my maple leaf here. And then I'm going to close this jump ring. So just like I cranked it open, I'm going to crank it shut, and I'm going to squeeze it just a little bit to make sure that it's closed, because I cut it, so now I have to kind of shimmy it together a little bit more than I would have if it was a good jump ring. But I can make it work that way. Now I have on my jump ring a 4mm, or on my leaf a 4mm jump ring in the silver color. I'm going to pick up my 10mm jump ring, and I'm going to slide this leaf on here through the jump ring, and then turn it over so I have my leaf to the front. And then I'm going to slide on this side of my beads that are prepared on the little loop, and put this side on, and then I'm going to close it. Now like I said, if you have bead stringing wire, just close your jump ring nice and tight, and then do your crimping, put your beading wire through it, put a crimp tube on, go through the crimp tube, crimp it off, cut off the excess, and then you'll have a nice long piece of beading wire here that you can work with, and you can just bead it however you'd like. So you can do basically the same thing. There's that. And now I can just put my clasping on the end quite simply. After you make your piece too, just make sure your ends are the same length. So if you need to trim them, whatever you have to do. But they should be fine if you cut them the same length to start with. Now we are going to grab a 4mm jump ring. And again, I am going to doctor this up because it's a mess. So give me just a second here. Alright, so now I'm going to grab this 4mm jump ring, and I am going to put it onto my lobster claw clasp, and then I'm going to put it onto the jump ring and close the jump ring. There we go. And then I'm going to just grab a 4mm jump ring for this side, and that one I already fixed, so I don't have to fix it again. I'm going to put it on here, then I'm going to drop a 10mm jump ring on there, and I am going to close the jump ring. I'm going to make sure this jump ring is closed tight, and it looks like it is. So that's good. And now let's back off and look at this necklace. I want to keep these projects quick and easy so we can do a few of them in this video. So here is my necklace, and how pretty that turned out. I really like the yellow with the gold and stuff. And here's the green one. It's just as pretty. They're both gorgeous. So I think, maybe other people don't, but I do. So that's what that one looks like. And of course he's all wadded up weird, but those are the necklaces. Now what I want you to do is get your other two leaves, your wire, your ear wires, and a couple of jump rings, 2 silver jump rings, and we are going to go ahead and make a pair of earrings. Oh, you're going to need these 2 beads too. So you should have 2 left over. Okay, so off camera I made one of the earrings. We're going to make the other one. So I've got my 3.5 inches of wire here, which can be a little bit excessive, but it works out pretty well for the way I want to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the very end of my wire, and about a 1/4 inch down, I'm just going to turn it with my pliers. So I'm just going to bend it straight over with my flat nose pliers like this. And then that may be just a tad bit long for my circle I want to make. So I'm just going to cut it just slightly down. And then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and I'm going to place them at the very end of the wire here so that the wire is flush with them, and I'm going to start to turn. I'm going to turn as far as I can. I'm going to take my pliers out. I'm going to turn them over, go towards the very end of that wire, and continue to turn. Now, my loop is a little bit off, so what I'm going to do, whoops, I want to get in closer, is grab it on the back side, so the side where the opening is not, and I'm just going to bend it back a little, and then I can put it back in and just close it like this. So I've got a nice loop there, and then I'm just going to drop on a 8mm round bead, and then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and I'm going to place it right on top of that bead. And I'm going to bend the long portion of the wire over my plier. Then I'm going to turn my plier so that it is now up and down like this. I'm going to grab that wire and put it over the top of the plier. As I get about 3/4 of the way around, I'm going to turn my wrist and draw that wire underneath the plier, just like that. And now I have a loop. And my loop's a little big, so I'm just going to squeeze it in a little bit. Now I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers, and I'm going to hold on to that loop, and I'm just going to start turning this wire, and I'm just doing a messy wrap. So I'm going all the way down, and then I'm coming back up towards the middle here, and then I'm going to cut that wire and grab my little crimping pliers, and I'm going to squeeze that excess in. And now I have a wrapped bead, and I'm just going to open a 4mm jump ring, and I've got a silver one, and I'm just going to open this from side to side, just twist it open, and then I'm going to put on my leaf, and I'm going to put it on the side that is just the plain loop here, and the wrapped side I'll put the ear wire on. So I'm just going to close this now. Well, it would help if I wasn't trying to use round nose pliers. Geez, Gina. There we go. Make sure that is closed properly. Now I'm going to grab my ear wire, find the opening on the ear wire, and just crank it open like you do a jump ring, just straight up and down like that. And then make sure that I put my wire on so that the arc part here is forward with the leaf, the same direction, like this. and make sure I actually did that. Yeah, I did. And then I'm going to close this loop. And now I have a set of earrings. Just that quick. Come on, turn around. And, oh, come here. Quit being a pooper. Then we're going to put this with it. Move all this stuff out of the way. Turn this over the proper direction. And I will show you the set if it quits arguing with me. So that is what that looks like. Very simple, very quick, and I think it's just really cute. Really easy for everyday wear. Of course, if you want to make your earrings shorter, you can just put an ear wire directly on the leaf. You don't have to do the bead on top. You can adjust it any way you want. If you don't like long earrings, you don't have to have them. So that is what those two sets look like. Let me get a little bit more centered here. And I think they're really, really cute. So that's one project for you. Okay, for our next project, we're going to make this little multi-strand, kind of dangly pendant necklace. So what I've done is I've just connected my pendant, my diffuser pendant, with the lava rock inside, and both bags come with that, and we will make a necklace. This one's a little bit more involved, but it's still very simple techniques, and it turns out really cute. I like the way that the beads stay twisted. So sometimes that's hard to accomplish. I'm going to show you how I did that to keep them twisted, and I'm going to show you everything we're going to need. We'll do one with color mix 2. This is color mix 1, and this hangs really pretty and it looks really nice on the neck. So let me gather everything together for color mix 2, and I will show you all the stuff we're going to need, and we'll get started. Okay, to make this necklace, I'm going to show you what beads I'm using in color mix 2. You can use any beads you want for this, and you can use any pendant you want for this. So if you do not have the treasure bag, then you can still do this. And if you do have the treasure bag, you can mix some other beads together. If you don't like the colors that I'm using, a lot of people aren't real keen on the yellow, you can choose a couple other strands in your mix to do this too. So I have already done one tutorial with this. However, there's enough left over to do this necklace because I only used like 14 beads. So I'm going to use these. However, if you do not have enough, just use another bead. Maybe a 4x3 or a 4mm round will work well, or even your little elongated bicones will work well in this too. And then I'm going to be using the pink little rice-shaped electroplated glass beads. In color mix 1, you'll have purple. And then I'm using the 6mm round glass pearls that are in the bag. In color mix 2, you have the champagne yellow, and in color mix 1, you'll have a very light green. So we'll be using those beads. Then we're going to be using this pendant. Now this is, I've kind of fashioned it as a diffuser pendant because I sent with it a lava stone that is unwaxed, so you can put essential oils on it, and then you can use this for a diffuser pendant. However, I did see on one of my YouTube reviewer people, Casey, she had an issue with hers. It did not want to open. I don't know what's up with that. I had one other person tell me that too. So if there is an issue, just let me know. But we're going to be using this. All of them that I've handled work just fine, but you just never know. So let me know. And then we have some of the chain that was in the bag. I have cut 4 of the same length, about 4 inches long. I will measure them when we're doing this to make sure that you know exactly how long they are. You can adjust the length of the segments you cut according to how long you want your necklace to be too. I'm aiming for about an 18.5, 19-inch necklace. So that kind of gives you reference to what I will end up with. Then adding to the bag, I have these bead cones, and I have some on line on my website if you want some, or just use a cone that works well for you. If you have one in your stash that you want to use that. And I'm going to be using these 4 bead cones, and I'm going to be using a couple of pieces of 20 gauge craft wire. This is cut about 4 inches long, maybe 3.5. Again, as we do this, I will measure them and tell you exactly. Then from the treasure bag, I'm using one of these toggle clasps. You can use any clasp you'd like. We're also going to be using some head pins. I have these little ball head pins. We'll be using those. I have some 11-0 seed beads. This is galvanized permanent finish aluminum in the Toho line. We'll be using a few of those. And then I have cut 6 pieces of soft flex fine beading wire. You can use medium if you'd like to. I just find that the fine is a little bit more flexible for this nice little weave of the beads we're doing in our strands, so I'm using soft flex fine. I've cut 6 pieces at about 8.5 inches long. Then you'll need some size 2 crimp tubes, and you're going to need about 12 of them. So I have Beading size 2 crimp tubes. You're also going to need some jump rings. So I have 3 that are 6 millimeter in diameter on the outside diameter, and about 8 that are 4 millimeter in diameter. So let's go ahead and get started with this project. Okay, so let me make a correction real quick. You're going to need 4 pieces of 4 inches of 20 gauge craft wire. So I have put out in my list that I just showed you of materials 2 pieces. You're going to need 4. So go ahead and cut 2 more. And we're going to make a little loop, wrapped loop like this on each one so that we can attach our beads, strands that we create to these, and then we can pop our cone beads over it. So you want to make sure that you make a loop the size that will go over your cone beads well and still have some room to accommodate the strands that we're going to put on it. So let's go ahead and make one of these little looped guys here. So take one of your pieces of wire and go about 1.5 inches down on your wire. Let me just measure it just to make sure I'm where I need to be. Yep, about 1.5 inches down on your wire. Place your round nose pliers right at that mark, and then push the shorter length over the top of the plier like this. Then turn your plier so it is now up and down in the bend that you just created in the wire. Then take the shorter length of wire over the top of the plier. When you get about 3/4 of the way around, start to turn your wrist and grab the wire and pull it under the plier. Your pliers are now what I like to call horizontal, and I like to call this position vertical. So now your pliers are this way, and you have a loop in your wire, just like this. Then you're going to grab your pair of flat nose pliers, grab onto the loop, and then position the extra piece of wire, the shorter length of wire, the same angle as your pliers. So basically it's just going to be parallel to your pliers. Then I like to switch my hands, so I'm going to put this in my left hand. My little length of wire is now underneath my long length of wire, and I'm going to start to turn a coil around the longer length of wire with the shorter length of wire. Move that up a little, make sure it's right where I want it to be, and then I'm just going to turn 2 coils around the longer length of wire, just like that. Then I'm going to cut the extra wire off, and then I'm just going to grab my little crimp pliers and crimp this down so that there's not a real big pokey piece sticking out. And this is going to be covered by your cone beads, so it's not that big of a deal, but I still like to tuck them in. You're going to do that with all 4 wires. I'm going to start with 2. and we're going to do one side, and then you can do the other side exactly the same way. So I have got 2 of my little wire things, and now I'm going to grab a piece of my beading wire, and what we're going to do is we're going to grab a crimp tube, and let's get in close here. These are little things, and we're going to put a piece of the beading wire, and like I said, I cut mine about 8.5 inches long, which is more than enough room to do this with. So grab a crimp tube, put it on the wire, put the wire through the loop that you just created on your wire, and then just slide the crimp tube over the loop that you've created here with your wire as you loop it through. Then pull on the longer length of wire to draw this up so that you do not lose a bunch of length on your wire. And then once you've got that drawn up, just a small loop around the wire to make sure you have some motion, but it doesn't have to be a great big loop. I'm going to switch hands here, and I'm going to grab my crimping tool, which is right there. Whoa! In the second divot on my crimping tool here, the one closest to the handle, I am going to place this crimp bead in my crimping tool, and I'm just going to squeeze. Now I have half of my crimp done, so you can see the fold in the middle here. Then I'm going to go to the first divot on my crimping tool, and I'm going to place this crimp tube in here sideways so that the 2 little tubes that are formed around the wires from the first half of your crimp are touching the tool. So it's sideways like that, and then I'm going to squeeze again. Now I have a nice little crimp. So I'm going to then take my flush cutters, and I am going to cut this extra length down just flush with the crimp tube. You're going to do that with 3 wires. So go ahead and put all 3 of your wires on here, exactly like I just showed you, right next to each other, and we'll be back. Okay, so this is basically what you should have here, is 3 pieces of wire crimped on to your loop, just like this. Now, I'm going to use 13 of the 6mm round beads and some of my 11/0 seed beads to do this first strand. So what I am going to do is I'm first going to pick up 4 11/0 seed beads onto my wire. Each time you start one of these and end one of these strands, you will end it with seed beads so that they will slide nicely up into the bead cone. And then I've got 13 of my 6mm round beads, and I'm just going to start stringing them on the wire. So I'm going to string one of them, and then I'm going to put an 11/0 seed bead, and I'm just going to continue stringing a pearl, then an 11/0 until I've used all 13 of my beads. Now if you're using something different than I am, I will measure this when I'm finished and tell you exactly how many inches basically I'm doing to get the effect that I previously got here on my design. So I know from already doing one that I'm going to use 13 of these. So let's go ahead and continue stringing our beads on, and then I'll come back and show you the next step. Okay, so I've put all 13 of my pearls on with my 11/0 seed bead in between and ended with 4 11/0s after I finished. Now this is 4.5 inches long, just so that you know, in case you're not using the same beads as I am, and you can adjust your beads, the amount you put on, to make sure that you have about 4.5 inches. Then we are going to pick up one of our crimp tubes. Now make sure that you use your strands so that they're not crossed. So I've used my very end one here to actually put my beads on, and then I'm going to grab my other little loop here. Let's get in a little closer. Let me readjust just a little bit and get in closer, and I am just going to put this strand through the loop, and then I'm going to go through my crimp tube here, and I'm going to pull this down and leave just a very small loop around the wire. Then I'm going to grab my little crimping tool, and in the first divot, let me tighten that a little bit. In the first divot, I am going to squeeze this, and then again, I'm going to place it into the first divot sideways. So this takes a little bit of manipulation because it's kind of jiggly. So I'm going to put it into the first divot and then squeeze again. Oops, slipped. There we go. And now it's attached on both sides. And I'm going to cut this piece of wire down flush with the crimp tube, just like that. Now I'm going to grab my next wire and align these. They like to flip around, do weird things. So I'm just going to go ahead and string my next one. So my next one, I am going to use my little purple beads here, or my little pink beads. And I believe that we're going to need about 20 of them as I fling them all over the place. So I'm going to take some of these out, and I'm going to string these on, and I'm not going to put anything between these ones. I'm just going to string them on. And I believe it's 20. I'll count my other design and let you know, but we're just going to start to just string these on here. And continue, and I will come back and tell you exactly how many to string on. Okay, so quick correction. You have to put on your 4 11/0 seed beads first. You will do that on each strand. And when I started with my last clip, I forgot to do that. So you're going to put on 4 11/0 seed beads, and then 20 of these little rice-shaped beads, and then 4 11/0 seed beads. Now, to do this, to put it on the other side this time, we're going to kind of wrap around the existing one. So first, pick up a crimp tube, and then I'm just going to kind of very gently just wrap this around this one. Try not to lose my beads or anything. I'm just going to wrap it around just like twice. So I have kind of a gentle braid here. And let's see, do I want to do that one more time? Yeah. So now just kind of mess with it until you get it where you want it. And this is basically what I want it to look like. So I have to attach this one on this side of my pearls here. So I'm going to pick up, or actually I have my crimp tube, so I'm just going to go through the loop here, and I want to make sure, is that good? I want to make sure I attach it next to the other one, so that it kind of holds this little twist. So I'm going to do it on the outside of my previous crimp, and I'm just going to push my crimp, or push my wire through the crimp bead and pull this down as close to that wire as I can get, leaving enough room for a little bit of movement, but not a lot. And then I'm going to crimp it. And I'm not worried about how the wire is laying in there, whether it's parallel or anything else. I'm just crimping it down. It's too hard to try to worry about that. So I'm just crimping the first divot and then into the second divot, and this is what I've got. Now, these will want to flip around, straighten back out, lose your twist, so just try to keep it organized and don't move your wires around too horribly bad when you string your next one. So I'm just going to kind of keep it in position like this, and I'm going to grab my yellow oval beads, and I'm going to open the strand, and let's see, I believe we need 13 of these, but I'm going to count my original 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back and tell you exactly how many you need, because my original one is twisted, so it's kind of hard to count. So I'm going to take a second and count that. And of course, we're going to start with our 4 11-0 seed beads first. And then we are going to start stringing our yellow beads. Okay, so I have used 13 of the yellow beads, 4 11-0s on each side, and I've dropped down my crimp tube. And now I've got it positioned to where I still have a twist in my other 2 beads here. This one's kind of over to this side here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bring it, let's see, all the way over to the other side and under this pearl strand here. And you can twist these any way you want. Sometimes it doesn't really stay twisted well, so you just need to kind of mess with it a little bit until you can get a nice twist. So now I have this one here. I'm going to go under the pearls again in between these 2 here and bring this up, and then I'm going to bring it around to the other side of my loop here. Straighten my loop out, and just kind of make sure you keep everything twisted right, and then bring it through the wire here. There, and you can see I have a pretty good little twist going on here, and I am going to then string or put through the wire through the crimp tube here. And this just takes a minute, so just, you know, be patient. Draw it up the best I can, and then crimp it. Now you can try to put all of them together and then braid them, but without securing it to one end at a time, it's very difficult to keep your beads from falling off. So that's why I'm doing it this way. I'm kind of reverse braiding it, or braiding into the braid I make with the first 2 is what I'm doing. And trying to attach it to the loop in that position. Now don't pick it up and mess with it after you've done it, because then you're just going to get everything untwisted. So then you're going to grab your bead cone and you're going to slide it on, and I'm just leaving it laying on my bead mat. And then I'm going to try to do this and without disturbing it too much. So I've got my round nose pliers, and I'm just grabbing right on top of that bead cone here, making sure it's pushed down nice and tight, and then I'm going to push this wire over the top, and then I'm going to turn my pliers up and down, and then I am going to position it over the top of my pliers. Then I'm going to turn my pliers and bring the wire underneath it. Then you should have a loop like this. Grab your flat nose pliers, wherever they are, and hold on to that loop. And then because this is a soft wire, I can just begin to turn this with my fingers. So I'm just going to start to turn it around the longer portion, and I'm just going to do kind of a messy wrap. So I'm going to go down to the bead cone, and then I'm going to move back up around the center of my wrap and just kind of wrap it back up towards the top, just like this. And let me get you in closer so you can see the wrap. It's just a messy wrap. And then I'm going to take my plier, flush cut that, and squeeze it down. And let's do that one more time. It's still a little pokey. That's better. And then I'm going to do the other side. So I'm going to move over here. And now it's pretty much going to stay. Once I put this cone on here, it's going to pretty much stay the way that I have braided it. So I am going to just straighten out my wire here, grab my round nose pliers, and again, I'm going to hold on to it right at the top of the bead cone. I'm going to bend the wire over the pliers, and then I'm going to switch my pliers so that they are up and down, and then I'm going to bring the long portion of the wire over the top of the plier, and then when I get about 3/4 of the way over, I'm going to draw it underneath the plier and turn my wrist at the same time so that I have a little loop here. I'm going to position this back a little bit, and then I'm going to grab my flat nose pliers, bring this wire parallel with it, with the pliers, so that the wire is the same angle as the pliers. And then I'm just going to start to turn. And I'm doing this with my left hand, and it's not going to be perfect, but and so now I've coiled it down so that it's holding the bead cap tight, and then I'm just going to start working my way back up my coil, and I have a wrap. So I will cut this excess off and tuck it in. Now we have one side of the front of our necklace here, and you can see it's staying pretty nicely braided and twisted. It just has to do with the way that you position your crimp tubes on your little wires, and then you can stabilize it with your bead caps like this. So I'm going to go ahead and make the other side exactly like this. So you're going to get 3 more pieces of wire, and you're going to make 2 more loops on your 20 gauge wire, and do exactly the same thing you did with this one. The same amount of beads, everything, and then we will be back once we have 2 of these created. Okay, so now you can see that I have done both sides of my necklace. Just keep doing your braiding until you get them fairly close to the same. It's almost impossible to get them exactly the same, but you can get them pretty close. So make your 2 sides as close as possible as you can, and then take your pendant. I am going to cut off this long extra bail piece because I think it's just a little too much and I don't need it. So I'm just going to take my flush cutters, cut this off, and open it up and take it out just like that. And then I'm just going to position this to where the latch is in the front. I've already put my little lava bead inside here. So let me grab this and show you. My little lava beads in there. And you can take it out and put oil on it, whatever. So this is positioned like this. I've got 2 4mm round jump rings, and I am going to attach them to the ends of my strands, and then I'm going to put them onto the bail here. So we're going to just grab a jump ring, and the opening is in the middle here, and I'm just going to crank it open like this. Then I'm going to put it on my bail, and then put it on my strand and close it. And these jump rings, I really need to cut and fix them, but I'm just going to doctor them up the best I can here. And you get the idea here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Open it up, put it on here, and then put it on here, and close it. Someday I'm going to get some really nice jump rings. I don't know when. Okay, so now I've got this position just like this. I want to make sure that I can have them lay out nice like that. Now we're going to make some dangles and attach them to the bottom here. So what you're going to need are, for each one of your beads, that you have the type of bead. So the 6mm round pearl, the oval bead, and the rice bead. You're going to make 8 little individual looped components like this. Now I am using these small head pins. I'm going to see exactly what they measure here so I can tell you. So you might need to cut yours down or whatever. So this is 1 inch from the ball to the end here. And I am just using them. They're soft. You can make just a basic loop too if you have a harder one, but these are soft, so I'm just putting my bead on, and then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? There you are. And I'm going to bring you in a little closer here. I'm going to grab at the very end here and towards the tip of my plier so that I don't make a huge loop, and I'm just going to turn as far as I can. Then I'm going to take my plier out, put it back in, and I'm just going to start to gently turn, trying to stay on the same part of my plier, and just turn this and keep turning it and keep turning it. When I get to the point to where the edge of where I started is, I'm going to just kind of tuck it down like this and then keep turning. Until I have a loop like this. I'm going to do that on all of my beads. So you're going to need 8 pearls, 8 of the rice beads, and 8 of the oval beads. So basically this is what you have, these little loops on all of them. So I'm going to show you how I'm grouping them, and then we're going to put them on the jump rings. So I said you only needed a few 6mm jump rings in the beginning. You need 6 of them. So what we're going to do is, I've got this 6mm jump ring, and I am going to make 4 components that have 2 pearls, 1 rice bead, and 1 of the oval beads. And then I'm going to make 2 6mm jump rings that have 2 rice beads and 2 ovals on them. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to grab one of the 6mm jump rings and open it. Just crank it open. And then I'm going to drop on a pearl, and then one of the oval beads, then a pearl, then one of the rice beads. Just like that. Whoops. Come here. Just alternating them on the jump ring, and then I'm going to go ahead and close the jump ring a little bit. I'm going to bring this over. Actually, I'll open it a little bit more. Sorry about that. I was just going to close them all and then open them back up, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go ahead and put it on my bail. So I'm going to have both of my strands up towards the top, and then towards the bottom of the bail, I'm just going to put on this jump ring and close it. Okay, stop it. I just want to make sure that's closed all the way, and my beads are getting in the way. Okay, I think it is. So I've put one of these on. I'm going to make another one and put it just above that one. So I will just go ahead and drop my pearl, and then this time I'll do the rice bead first. Doesn't matter, just alternate the types of beads. So you can do your oval or your rice bead first. Doesn't matter. I like to alternate them so that on my piece they're kind of more scattered out. Then I'm going to grab my piece again, put these towards the top, and right above the one I already put on, I'm going to put this one on and close it right there. And then I'm going to make one with just the oval and the rice beads. So I'm going to open a jump ring, and I'm going to alternate the beads. So I've got a rice bead, an oval, and you can't see anything I'm doing, can you? Okay, let's be smart about this. And then rice bead, then an oval. Then I'm going to put that one on top of the two that I just put on the same side. So I'm going to move my strands up. I'm going to just place this on this bail right above the other two and close it. Now, you can see I'm starting to get a really nice bobble of dangles. We're going to do the same thing on the other side with the piles we have left. Now remember, you will have 8 pearls, 8 ovals, and 8 of your little rice beads, and go ahead and put them together like I've shown you, put them on the bail, and then we will be back. Okay, so you can see I have put all my dangles on, and then I've gone ahead and done one side of the back of the necklace. So I have cut 4 pieces of chain, like I said in the beginning, that are about 3 3/4 inches long each. And you can cut these as long or as short as you need them to be to get the length of necklace you want. Now, I have 2 4mm jump rings here. Of course, you're going to need 4, so you can do both sides. But I'm just going to open a 4mm jump ring, and I'm going to put the end of each link of chain on this jump ring here, perhaps. And to get those on, which I don't seem to be able to do. There we go. And then I'm going to put it on the end of the necklace here, the loop on my bead cap, and close this. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other end with the other end of my clasp here. So I'm going to grab another 4mm jump ring, open it up, and I just messed up that jump ring, so let me get another one. And I am going to do the same thing, so just straighten out my chains here. And I've done a double chain just because I think it looks better, more substantial than a single chain on the back of this, because the front is quite bold, so I wanted the back to balance. Now I've put my clasp and both my chains on the jump ring, and I'm closing it. And now I have my necklace. And I think it turned out really pretty. I'll straighten them up and lay them out pretty so that you can see them at the end here, because I also have the green one here from the Color Mix 1, so we'll straighten that all out so you can see that. I decided to go ahead and make an earring to match, and what I have done is I've just made more of the components like I showed you earlier, and you're going to double this because this is just enough for one earring here because I've already made one. So I made 4 pearls, and then 1 of the rice beads and 1 of the oval beads, and excuse me, 2 ovals, 2 rice, and 4 pearls. I have put one on a 4mm jump ring, and I'm going to do the other so you can see. So I'm making 2 clusters, and I'm going to grab a 4mm jump ring, and this is kind of a pain in the rear end with a 4mm, but it works out fine in the end. So I'm going to drop a pearl on this 4mm jump ring. I've opened it, and I'm just going to alternate my beads. So then I'm putting on an oval, then I'm putting on another pearl, and then I'm going to put on my little rice bead. And like I said, it's a pain in the rear end to do. I've flung the other one around about 20 times, but it can be done. And then I'm going to close my jump ring. And then I'm going to grab a 6mm jump ring and open it. So you're going to do that twice. And then you have to find the 4mm jump ring you just attached everything to and put your 6mm jump ring through it. Let me get closer. Just like this. And then I'm going to find the other 4mm jump ring that these are attached to and scoop it up. Which, like I said, this is kind of a pain in the rear end, but you know. Then I'm gonna pop that one on also and close this jump ring. I'll lay that out, and then I'm going to get another 4mm jump ring if I can find it. Or actually, I think I used about a 5mm or a 6mm. And I'm gonna grab it. Let's see, what did I do? Yeah, I used a little bit bigger one. So this is probably about a 5mm jump ring. It doesn't really matter. It's going to end up basically the same. This jump ring isn't closed properly, so let me close that. There we go. And I am going to grab my new jump ring here and put it on the 6mm jump ring that I put the two little clusters on. And I'm going to grab my ear wire and put it on my ear wire and close it. And now I have a cluster earring. So I have a match for my pretty little set here. And let me back off and show you what it looks like. I think that turned out really cute. So I'm going to go ahead and put out the other set that I made, and we will look at what we've made and call it good. Okay, so here's what we've made so far. I need to make a pair of earrings for this set, which I will go ahead and do off camera. But here's all that we have made, and that's quite a bit. And we've only used a very small fraction of the bead bag. So we'll have a bunch more stuff coming up. I'm going to try to combine a few things together like this so that we can move along with our patterns and get things going with our bags. So anyway, this is what I've made. Turns out really pretty. I really like the way they turned out. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, please consider subscribing, hitting the notification bell, and perhaps a thumbs up if you're feeling very kind. And I will see you again in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.